order at 9:34. We'll start with roll call.
Nelson? Here. Gingell? Gershenson?
Here.
Lubes?
Here.
Todd? Here. Quarles?
Here. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes from the March 18th meeting. Approved by Gershenson, seconded by Lube. Any corrections? We do a voice call. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the agenda. Before we approve the agenda, we do have a walk-on item, which is the professional contract that I would like to add on the agenda as item number 8. May I get a approval for the addition to the agenda? Commissioner Nelson is approving it.
Agenda is amended.
Is amended. And Commissioner Gershenson is supporting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? And then we will close public comment. Moving to our agenda under communications. We'll need a motion to receive and file the communications items A through C. Is there moved by Commissioner Gershenson and seconded by Commissioner Nelson. We'll do a voice roll call. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Now moving to the regular agenda. Starting with item 1. Human Service Department changed to the Merit System Rule 24 and 26 for compliance with the Paid Medical Leave Act. Is there a motion for item 1? Moved by Gershenson. Is there a second? Second is by Commissioner Nelson. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Christy Slauson. I'm the manager of Human Resources. And before you is a resolution for compliance with the Paid Medical Leave Act and changes to Merit System Rules 24 and 26. The Paid Medical Leave Act went into effect March 29th of this year. The act covers employers with 50 or more individuals. Paid medical leave is accrued at a rate of 1 hour for every 35 hours worked in a calendar week for up to a maximum of 40 hours per year. Or employers have the option to provide the 40 hours at the beginning of each calendar year. Paid medical leave may be used in 1 hour increments and for certain reasons, and those reasons are spelled out in the resolution. As an employer, Oakland County provides sufficient pay time off for full-time employees and is in compliance with the act. We provide 40 hours of personal leave each year for a maximum of 15 days. Some unions have a maximum of 18 days. An 8-hour floating holiday each year to be used within the year. And then annual leave hours accrued each pay period, and that rate increases over time based on the length of county service. Our part-time non-eligible employees work less than 25 hours per week on average in a 12-month period, therefore are not covered under this act. There is a posting requirement under the act All departments were notified and sent copies of the Paid Medical Leave Act to post in their areas. So we are proposing to change the language for Merit Rule 24, personal leave, and 26, legal holidays for full-time new hires. The current language provides a new hire 8 hours of floating holiday after they complete 3 months of service, and then they offer a prorated amount of personal leave hours based on their hire date after they complete 6 months of service. So we're proposing to allow a new hire employee to receive the 8 hours of floating holiday and 40 hours of personal leave upon their hire. Allowing the hours to be received upon hire would not result in any budgetary changes and will increase the county's ability to attract and recruit qualified employees. So attached to the resolution is the proposed changes to Merit Rules 24 and 26. The current wording, the proposed wording, and then there's the track changes and a clean revised copy of each merit rule attached.
I do have one question before we move to the other commissioners, and that's looking at the part-time. With the new wording that you're putting in, will the part-time employees still receive personal leave days?
Part-time employees don't receive personal leave days. If what you're seeing in there, when they refer to part-time, it's referring to part-time eligible employees.
Oh, okay.
And we only have 4 of those left in the county.
Okay.
And we don't hire part-time eligible employees any longer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner
Top.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have never served on human resources or whatever it is, so if you'll forgive me, I have some questions that I just don't understand. What are these floating holiday hours that you're talking about?
It's just an 8-hour, it's just another vacation day, but we call it a floating holiday. It's given to each employee every year. It's just another day that they can use as a paid time off day. But they have to use it within the year, otherwise they lose it.
Okay, so if they have a week's vacation, they could take an 8-day
They could
leave,
use
is
that one
that
day, yeah,
correct?
that one
But
floating
it's not
holiday.
for any particular holiday like Christmas or Easter? Okay,
It's in addition to paid holidays.
okay. And then, so if we extend it to all new hires the day they walk in the door, someone could take their 40 hours before they even get and they get a paycheck. This is confusing to me because to me, the way I read this is, and you're gonna have to help me because as I said, I've never been part of HR before. Someone could conceivably, the way I'm reading it, walk in the door, sign all the papers, get the physical exam, come the first day to work and say, I'm out of here for a week. Is that correct?
Typically, that wouldn't happen. The reason, we're requesting this is they accumulate vacation hours each pay period. When you're a new hire, you accumulate only 3.07 hours per pay. So by them not getting this personal leave until 6 months down the road, if something comes up and they need to take time off for a doctor's appointment or, something like that, they don't have a lot of time in their bank. So by providing it up front, it gives them that cushion. If somebody were to leave the county, let's say they hired in and then they left, you do not get paid off for personal leave time. You only get paid off for your vacation time.
So someone could conceivably then walk in the door, say, I've got 2 sick kids at home and my husband has to have surgery tomorrow, I'm out of here.
They could ask for that time off.
I have difficulty understanding why we would not have them have to work for a certain period of time before they get that opportunity. It's difficult for me to understand. When does maternity kick in? The 90 days they get for leave after they have a baby? Isn't it 90 or is it 120 now?
They get 6 weeks, but they have to be here at least 6 months in order to be eligible for that.
Okay, so is there anywhere here that somebody could walk in the door, be pregnant, walk out the door and say, well, I get a week off now? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
They could essentially get paid for a week, but if they're off for those 6 weeks, that helps pay for a little bit of that time.
But So they have to be working for 6 months before they get their 90 days maternity leave, male or female, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Also, employees have to request it of their manager, so it's not a guarantee that they could have that off. And then secondly, they're on probation. And then third, we can't discriminate against anyone who's pregnant. So we have hired pregnant women here at the county who do then go off shortly thereafter. And so they would get some time that might be in their bank, otherwise it's leave without pay.
Okay, so I understand. Thank you for the help because it didn't make any sense to me. I don't want you to discriminate against someone. On the other hand, they walk in the door and deliver 2 weeks later, they wouldn't have the 90 days. Would they or would they? They could get the 90 days, but it would be unpaid. Is that correct? So, and then what does the manager do in lieu of having a body to fill that spot?
We have an emergency salaries program.
Lori, would you like to take a seat at the? Thank you.
We have an emergency salaries program where we can assign someone who's on a sick leave to that department to fill in. But in the case of like a pregnancy, a department would know about that ahead of time and probably make,
Well, I would hope so.
yeah,
Especially during their
probably make
A7 yeah.
accommodations for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Nelson,
Yes.
Gingell, Gershenson,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to item 2, the appointment of the Classification Determination Hearing Subcommittee, Group 3. The names that were submitted, I would like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, you can go ahead.
no, you need a motion.
No, actually, this is a continuation, so go ahead.
Okay. The names that were submitted, we do need to amend them. And moving forward with that, I would like to put forward 3 names. And that is to serve on this subcommittee, Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Taub, myself, and Commissioner Zah as the, I'm just nominating you for a subcommittee. Classification determination.
As an alternate.
As an alternate.
So, motions. Appoint those.
Okay. So those are the members that are being appointed. Can I get a motion for the appointments? Commissioner Lube moves it. There's second, and second by Commissioner Nelson. Roll call.
Roll call on the appointments. Gershenson,
Yes.
Loops.
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes. Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 3. Board of Commissioners authorize the transition of the Adams Pratt Law Library to the Oakland County Legal Resource Center.
I'm moving it.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Wu. And Commissioner, Chief of Staff.
All right, thank you. All right, let's try that title out for a spin here. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. This is rather straightforward. The Library Board, at the charge of the Board of Commissioners, undertook a study, set up 2 subcommittees during last year to take a look at the operations and the collection of the library, and in the process updated their mission statement, and in doing so looked at one issue, which is the name of the law library. And in doing so, they have made a recommendation to rename the law library from the Adams Pratt Law Library to the Oakland County Legal Resources Center to better reflect the new reduced operations around a de minimis law library. And so this resolution, because the Board of Commissioners originally named the law library the Adams Pratt Law Library, would seek your support to rename the law library the Oakland County Legal Resources Center. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Any discussion?
Was the library named after somebody initially?
It was named after Judges Clark J. Adams and Judge Philip Pratt, two distinguished judges. They both were very involved in the building up of the law library. As I understand, it was at the time over 40,000 volumes. And so in doing the research, I don't know if they would want their names associated with such a small library. I've asked the judges, the two chief judges, to discuss with their colleagues if this is something they would want to retain. We could certainly keep the photos and some sort of recognition of the judges there. But, you know, if you'd like to keep the names attached to it, we could certainly do so, but I thought it would be appropriate at least to keep the photos and some sort of recognition of the judges there.
When it was first, and when it was first named, was there any understanding of the length of time that they would be honored by that name?
No, it was named, I believe, in 1975 or 1976.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Christensen?
Are they still alive?
No. Yeah, it was 1976, I see. Yeah, 1976 at the time. One had gone on, I believe, to the appeals court and one to a federal district court.
Thank you. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, the library board is supporting this, and the reason they are is because we're not gonna really have a library anymore. As you well know, most everything is online. And if you have an opportunity, ask Chris to take you to the basement to see the multitude of books that were bought, sadly, after we had issued a no book buying. I mean, there's just massive numbers of books. I see the chairman shaking his head. Yeah, we don't want, we want to help people in this library who can't afford to have any other help. They can't afford attorneys. Oftentimes there's self-help, it's divorce, it's property disputes, family disputes, and that type of thing. And they just simply cannot afford to hire an attorney for such, they want to do the self-help. So we're gonna be able to help them find the information they need, not ever give advice, but it's all online now, as you well know. And so that is the idea of changing the name and completely not even saying, I don't think the word says library in it, if I'm not mistaken. It's a self-help center, legal self-help center. So that tells people I can come in, there'll be someone to guide me to whatever I need to have, but we're not gonna have rooms of books that nobody read, and if you go in the basement and look, none of the spines have ever been cracked, which is sad. It's a waste of money. We could have helped so many more people this way. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm not clear.
Commissioner Christensen?
Thank you, I'm not clear. What's in the basement?
There are, I'm sorry, I could, if you want to
Go
answer.
ahead, Chris.
Sure.
No, go ahead.
We're in the process of deaccession of the collection.
Right.
The non-active collection, it's really not the base, it's right over here. And I'm more than happy to take you over and take a look at it, but this is the books that were really not part of the real active collection. They're mostly federal reporters. There's a lot of volumes that essentially are not of a tremendous value. So we're in the process of working with Central Services, others, and how to get whatever value there is out of the collection.
So if a resident comes in and does want that help, where does that resident go?
Well, right now, most of the collection is available. Most of what we have to offer is on the computers.
I know, but where would that resident go?
Oh, up in
Okay.
the
So
library,
same, yeah,
future Legal Resources Center.
got it.
Yeah, we do have some in the print collection, and we will retain some in the print collection, some of those items that are really not accessible on the, legal databases.
So what exactly is in the basement then?
Those are the old print items that
Okay.
we are in the process of getting rid of, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. So
Got it. Thank you.
We're in the process of, I think the first phase will be offering those items to county departments that use legal resources, and then we'll move on to other phases.
Commissioner Todd?
Yeah, for our two new members, a number of years ago, I think it was 2009 or 10, we sold the law library to Cooley Law School, which is down the road here in Auburn Hills. And the idea, as things were coming online, was to have a very, just a minimal amount of books and help people online. Well, we went astray from that, sadly. So that's what we're trying to get back to, and even more so, because I think all of us know that our wonderful public libraries in our communities all have books, some self-help books, okay, that you can just, go in your regular library. We're just open, regular days, not on weekends, not in evenings, so it behooves the local libraries also to have some of this stuff available, and they do. And in fact, the chairman of our board runs the West Bloomfield Township Library. She's the library director there, so we do know that those things are available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we do roll call, please.
Kirshenson,
Yes.
Lukes.
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes. Okay, thank you, motion carried, thank you. The next item, Board of Commissioners authorize standard per diem rate schedules for various Oakland County boards, commissions, and authorities. Chief of Staff Ward, are you gonna speak to it, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna make Michael come down here and help me too, though.
Okay, we need a motion. Commissioner Nelson, is there support? Commissioner Gershis.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This is an attempt, many of these have not been touched again since 1975. We're attempting here to give you a standard per diem rate schedule. Some of these were quite uneven, and so what you have before you here in Schedule A attached to the resolution is some standardized rates for the per diems that are paid to county boards, commissions, and authorities that are appointed, mostly, almost all of these are appointed by the Board of Commissioners. So with that, that's basically what you have before you here today. One note is the canvassing board. We did have before you earlier in the year a new payment scheme for the canvassing board that was required by statute. We went to an hourly rate. After that was enacted, we received some less than favorable feedback from the canvassing board regarding that. And so we've received a recommendation to go back to a per diem. And so what you have here is two different rates, one for 4 hours or less, and one for 4 hours or more for the canvassing board, and again, one for the assistant canvassers. So with that, I guess we'd be happy to take any questions that you have. There's mileage reimbursement as well that's noted below in this schedule. Michael, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think we would be rescinding miscellaneous resolution 19013, which is related to what Chris mentioned earlier with the hourly per diem rate for the canvassing board. Another point to make is that if this is passed by the board and signed, this would go into effect on May 1st, 2019, which with a special election, I believe, coming up in May, that would give them the new fees for the canvassing board.
Some things to note, the Parks and Rec Board, Library Board, I think the Retirement and Compensation Board, those were set at $35, since 1975. I plugged that into the inflationary calculator. I think they would be at $166 if we were to judge them by inflation. So,
Gosh.
you know, they're jumping from $35 to $90, which might seem like quite a big jump, but, you know, that's where they would be at if we were just to judge it by inflation.
So this is raising it from what was set in the 70s, 60s?
Yeah, we had a standard rate. If the board did not set another rate, it was $35 for some of them. Others were at $75, like the jury board, personnel appeal, I believe sanitary appeal was another, building authority was at 75, so those that were at 75 were bringing it up to 90, those that were at 35 were bringing it up to 90, just to bring them all up at the same rate. So there's a standard rate, rather than making a value judgment, which ones are more valued than others.
What's the effect on the budget?
That's in Schedule B. So Schedule B has, there's a total, it will all zero out in the end because of the raise and decrease in the per diems that we set aside. Lynn can probably talk to the total amount that's, that we have that would address that. Yeah, go ahead.
Come on, Lynn, we're picking on you.
So the estimate for the general fund? The estimate for the general fund, general purpose is about $4,400 for 2019. That's a prorated amount, and then on an ongoing basis, about $8,900. And so we're pulling that out of the contingency line item and reappropriating it to the various departments as appropriate.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Commissioner Tom?
Yes. I'm gonna pass this, and I'll explain it around, if you could. And this is something that's kind of been difficult, because I don't understand why it happened, but the Substance Use Advisory Board meets quarterly, and it's not on this list. We do make 2 appointments, and the Mental Health Board makes 1 appointment to that, okay? They have always paid a per diem to their member, Mental Health Board member, whose name is Bob Klotz, at this time. Sometimes they change. Bob's a good member. They pay a per diem for him. But the commissioners who serve do not get a per diem. And I've always wondered why. Now, there are other members appointed as well, but they're not appointed by us. So I thought I would bring this discussion up. I have an amendment here. I guess you have to have it in writing now. So I have an amendment here that says, that adds to the whereas the per diem compensation recommendation, it adds a substance use disorder oversight policy committee to all the others receiving per diems.
Commissioner Gurchison?
So who is on this committee?
This committee consists of 2 commissioners,
Who are they?
myself and Gwen, and then Bob Klotz, who's a member of the Mental Health Board, and then we have various members from various organizations. We have 1 or 2 members from the clergy, okay? We have some members who, one member, a couple of members who are in recovery, from substance use recovery. Yeah.
So you're suggesting that the members of the clergy, you're suggesting that
No,
all the board get?
no.
Okay,
That, it's up to the Mental Health Board to handle their
okay.
their appointees,
I
in my
see.
personal opinion.
And then who
And
are
they
you
do, they pay a per diem to their member.
And so who are you suggesting that we pay a
That-
per diem to?
Your appointee commissioners, you do it
So
every,
you and Gwen?
yes, or and I'm not gonna vote on this, by the way. But I'm suggesting it happen. I won't be here forever, and I think it's a considerably long meeting,
How often do you meet?
quarterly,
Quarterly.
yes.
And do we have any gauge on some of these other committees in terms of how often they meet, in terms of the compensation?
Sorry, Commissioner, in terms of Schedule A,
In terms of the ones we've just approved,
Yeah.
so Parks and Rec, they meet monthly? And most of the other ones, I know Area Agency meets monthly.
Library board meets quarterly,
And they receive it. Our appointees receive.
I believe so.
Okay, but the members do not receive.
They do.
All the members do receive.
You have further question?
I'm just a little confused
Yeah.
with the inconsistency of that.
I'm
Do you
so-
wanna go further? 'Cause I-
No, I'll wait to hear the discussion and then,
I agree with you, Commissioner Gerson, I'm confused. As I'm hearing you and I'm reading this, am I interpreting this correctly, that you want the commissioners to be the ones that get paid and not all the members on the substance use disorder oversight?
Okay, we don't appoint the other members, they're appointed by the mental health board. It's.
all of the other members?
Yes,
Okay.
they are, we appoint two people, okay. They appoint all the other members plus one of their own members. They pay that mental health board member for a mental health board, whatever the stipend may be. Okay, it happens to be Bob Klotz, all right? And we do not pay our appointees. It's kind of like Parks and Rec. Well, I guess we appoint all the Parks and Rec. I can't think of somewhere where there's
So
joint,
every member on Parks and Rec gets a per diem.
right,
Every member on, the jury gets a per diem.
right.
Every member on, well, not on area agency, they don't all get per diems because we only appoint one person.
Yeah.
Building authority, every member.
Well, we appoint one person to the area agency, but I think you have an alternate too. So if that member doesn't come, you pay the alternate,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken. But I may be wrong. But the point being that it always bugged me that the mental health board has forever paid their appointee, but we don't pay the two commissioners, whoever they may be, sitting on there, and we appoint them. It's up to them to make a decision as to whether or not they want to pay the additional members because they appoint them. Am I kind of coming through there? We wouldn't pay those members, they're not our appointees.
I know, Commissioner Zach, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I know you were on Area Agency on Aging.
I'm confused
I am.
we appoint. Well, you wanna join us? Sure. Well, at the end, and then, I do have a question for Lynn when she, after.
Just for clarity's sakes, I served on the Area Agency on Aging Board as the commissioner appointment for, I don't know, 10, 12 years. And there was never any per diem that I was aware of that was paid. And I was surprised, we have our Oakland County representative who's Ron Borgesser that is on this schedule. I wasn't aware that there was any per diem. Would it have been us paying or is this new? You know,
There's a resolution that was adopted by the board that approved per diem.
So, you know, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's just not clear to me. You have to decide, do we do both the commissioner, you know, and the Oakland County representative and area agency? How can we be consistent?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you were.
Well, I was just gonna ask Commissioner Taub if you'd be comfortable if we postpone this till we get all the details on all the boards and then we could revisit it at the next meeting?
Sure, because I just see the area agency authorities of Area Agency on Aging. I too served a while back on that, and I do not recall a per diem for that. Are we adding that? We should postpone all of this.
Well, I don't think there's any time sensitivity, or is there?
There is a time sensitivity in dealing with the canvassing board at least. I'm just
That's right.
wondering, Commissioners, if you would consider if we could come back to the issue of commissioner paid per diems.
Okay.
And we'd be happy to do the research on that. If we could move forward with this Schedule A, we'll come back to you with proposed policy. We'll work with fiscal and others, and
I apologize, one error I just made, we did not get a motion to put this up for discussion. Is there a motion to?
I moved it.
It's moved by Todd, is there a second? Second by Gershis.
So I'm gonna suggest,
Excuse me, Commissioner, are you finished? Then, Commissioner Cobb.
I'm gonna suggest that we pass it as it is, and you're more than welcome to look into the mental health, to the substance use, oversight policy, if you wish. Somebody here can call and find out about it if you wish, but I suggest that we move this as, and I will amend it on the floor.
That's fine, because I
We
think,
didn't get that many.
yeah, we do
So are you-
need,
I'm going to withdraw the motion. I will do that. And someone will, from administration will have to call, I guess, and find out exactly what's going on.
So, any further discussion? Yes.
I will not be voting for this. I'm gonna recuse myself. Thank you.
We will be voting on item number 4 as it is presented. Will you call the roll, please?
Luce?
yes.
Tubb? Nelson?
Yes.
Gershenson?
Yes.
Quarles?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mike. Moving on to item number 5. Miscellaneous Resolution 19051, the Board of Commissioners support the legislation to raise the age for juvenile offenders in Michigan. Is there a motion for this? Brought forth by Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Lowe. Commissioner Zach.
Thank you for having me. I want to introduce my guest with me today, Alex Rossman. He's the Communications Director for the Michigan League for Public Policy, and this has been one of their initiatives that they've worked on for years. Frankly, I talked to them about it several years ago and explored this idea, and decided the time was right to go and do a supportive resolution in favor of this important issue. One of my concerns a couple years ago, I had talked to judges, is that they were concerned about the fiscal impact on the county. And there are different appropriations bills going with the legislation. I know that Alex can inform us more about that. So basically, Michigan's, the highlight, Michigan is one of 4 states in the country that automatically sentences 17-year-olds as adults. And it takes away the discretion of the prosecutors and the judges. And there's a tremendous impact on those youths being sentenced as adults. And by changing this legislation, judges or prosecutors could still choose to prosecute a 17-year-old as an adult, but it isn't mandatory. And I think, there's all sort in the resolution and materials. So Alex, do you want to add anything to that?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Just to reiterate, the key piece of the legislation is this automatically prosecuted as adults. So right now, regardless of what their offense is, if they're 17-year-olds, they're charged and processed in the adult system, and if it results in incarceration, they're sent to the adult correction system, not a juvenile facility. But even if they're on probation, that is all done through the adult system. So our primary concern is the universal impact of it. So as the commissioner mentioned, judges and prosecutors would still have discretion if there was a serious offense, a violent offense. This is more for honestly, a lot of the things that a lot of 17-year-olds are doing. We've been working hard to collect individual stories from different 17-year-olds and the impact in instances of a 17-year-old that was charged as an adult for being a minor in possession of tobacco. So they're treated as an adult for not being 18 and possessing tobacco. A lot of instances are fights or altercations at school, and a 17-year-old would then result in criminal charges where a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old would probably just be suspended or face discipline at school. And We're one of the last states that is still doing this automatically. The trend is definitely shifting in the other direction, and the impact is really significant in terms of treating them as adults, that it hinders their education prospects. They're more likely to face physical or sexual assault in adult facilities. They have post-traumatic stress. They're more likely to cause suicide if they're charged in an adult facility. So there are all these impacts by treating them as adults that we'd like to address. And then the other significant piece right now is that this is a real big bipartisan issue. There are legislative packages in both the House and Senate right now, and they have bipartisan bill sponsorship. The House and Senate Judiciary Committee chairs are both Republicans and have both come out in favor of these bills and are even sponsors. So it's also a nice issue that has bipartisan support at the state level, and we think should resonate in other areas of the state and local government in a bipartisan fashion also.
Questions? Thank you. Commissioner Gersison?
Well, thank you for giving us that detail, because that certainly is important. This is a non-binding resolution, but this is just expressing our support for this change. Thank you.
Commissioner Todd?
Yes, what would the cost to the county be? Is there any estimate, Lynn?
We filled out several surveys trying to determine, we'd have to probably make capital improvements at our Children's Village juvenile facility. I think the legislation that's going through is indicating that there's looking at changes in the way in which we're reimbursed for child care fund, to change that to 2/3 versus 50% reimbursement. If we were to, there's two options, and that's one that we would probably lean towards, I think, based on receiving 2/3 versus trying to determine each reimbursement, how much of it would be related to these 17-year-olds versus the rest of the population.
So would it behoove us to state what we would like to have in Oakland County as opposed to just we support it and we urge, which is I'd like to call a recess because I would like to change that name and if I could to insist, and I'd also like to say that we support the 2/3 reimbursement per child in this, so that people who get this, obviously our state legislators from Oakland County will receive this, and if they bother to read it, which we hope they will, or their staff will, then they will know what we are looking for and how to vote. That's one thing. And the other thing is, what do? We don't have 17-year-olds now, is that correct?
I can't speak for Children's Village.
Is there anyone here from Children's Village?
I don't know what their population is.
They-
I'm sure
They do also.
Well, I want to know what you do with a 17-year-old who dropped out of school at 16. What do you do with that person all day long? The state law says they have to go to school till they're 16. So now you've got a 17-year-old kid who could or could not be somewhat violent. We don't really know, okay? In lockdown, which is where they will be put in a jail cell for 24 hours a day or maybe 1 hour out. So my suggestion here is that for children going into such a state that they must attend school. I don't know what they do at Children's Village though with kids who, let's say they drop out of school at 16 and they're still in the village. They could be 16 and dropped out. Do they have to go to school or do they just sit in their cells and twiddle their thumbs? I don't know. I'm just asking.
So we have wonderful professionals in Oakland County that run Children's Village, prosecutors, judges. They have the discretion to say, you know, maybe I can't house them or can I house them in Children's Village. They also can address, you know, putting them into a special cell in the jail. That's really not for us to determine in this legislation. We have great professionals in our county that will take care of those individual cases.
And if I may add to that, I don't know the specifics of how things operate in Oakland County, but in a general sense, when we look at a 17-year-old that ends up in the adult system versus juvenile system, they lose on average about 6 months of education out of each year. So I don't know if it's mandated that they continue to pursue education if they're in a juvenile facility, but I know that one of the many reasons for our support of this issue is that if they're in the adult system, they do not have the same continued education opportunities that they would in the juvenile system.
Okay, Madam Chair, I would like to call a recess so I can get this amendment written out.
Madam Commissioner, is this something that you have looked at earlier and could have been the amendment written?
There was nobody in yesterday or Saturday here, so there was nobody here to write the amendment. So I need someone to write an amendment that says that we support 2/3 reimbursement for the children, 17 children, all children at Children's Village, to help compensate for those who will be taking in at age 17.
We have to, isn't there a vote on the recess?
No, you can call it.
Yeah, I'm gonna call a vote for the recess.
So I'm not gonna be able to amend anything, is that correct? And unless it's in writing, and then if I decide to amend it right now, I can't amend it at all? That's the way we're gonna work? I just need to know the rules.
Would you be open to, as opposed to a recess, that we set it aside temporarily while staff write it up and move on to the next?
Sure. Thank you.
Moving to the next item. Which is miscellaneous resolution 19057. The Board of Commissioners support Senate Bill 54 and House Bill 4100, restoration of historical preservation tax credit program. And Commissioner Hoffman will be joining us. Is there a motion to?
I'll move it.
It was moved by Tom. Is there support by Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You probably wonder why I called you all here today. Anyway, I'm looking for support for this. Pardon? No, not today. I'm looking for support for this miscellaneous resolution to approve the historic tax credit in the historic districts in, well, it's in the state of Michigan actually. And I personally believe that we should not tear down old stuff, especially in these communities. I've actually rehabbed 2 historic buildings in the village of Holly. I did not take any tax credits for doing it. I just did it because I wanted to. But I think sometimes these tax credits will be that extra incentive some developer might need to go ahead with this project to make it financially feasible. That's all I have to say on that matter.
Any discussion? Any questions?
When you say reapprove, so this is something on the books already? So
No,
this
they
is
had it
something-
and then it was eliminated a few years ago. And it's a 25% tax credit for eligible items, eligible expenditures. And that's also offset a little bit if you take a federal tax credit too. So I don't think you're getting both anymore like you did at one time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Close the call for the roll, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Moving to the next item on our agenda, Corporation Council appointment. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Tom. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Lewis. Okay, thank you. You want to proceed?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Malcolm Brown. I'm a Deputy County Executive, as you know, and I'm here this morning to present our County Executive's appointment of Jo Ellen Shortley as our new Corporation Counsel. I am going to turn it over to Jo Ellen to highlight her qualifications and her resume for you, but before I do, I do want to say that Joe Ellen has the unanimous support of everybody in administration. I've talked with Keith Lermano, our prior corporation counsel, and he's in support of Joe Ellen getting this appointment as corporation counsel. And if respect and support from one's colleagues is any measure, and I certainly believe that it is, I think everyone in Corporation Counsel's office unanimously supports Joe Ellen for this position. And I do want to note that we have 5 attorneys from Corporation Counsel's office that are here this morning to also support Joe Ellen's appointment as Corporation Counsel. I want
Could you
to know-
introduce them, Malcolm?
Yeah, we have Jody Hall, we have Mary Ann Yergi, we have Nicole, and Tabin, we have Sharon Barnes, and we have, I believe it's Peter Mena.
Thank you.
Before I turn it over to Joe Ellen, I do want to make a few other comments. Joe Ellen has been with Corporation Counsel's office since 2000. She's been here almost 20 years. She started out as a financial attorney in Corporation Counsel's office. In 2013, she was appointed as Deputy Corporation Counsel, and so has really gained some experience for this position. I think that Joe Ellen is going to do an outstanding job as our Corporation Counsel, and I want to urge you to support and vote to recommend her confirmation as Corporation Counsel to the full board. And now I'd like to turn it over to Joe Ellen for her to highlight some of her credentials and qualifications for the position.
Thank you. Madam Chair, would it be all right if I just gave an overview of our office? Because I know we have some newer commissioners, just to make sure everybody understands what we do in Corporation Counsel.
Yes, thank you.
First of all, we have 21 and a half attorneys. One is a part-time attorney. 21 and a half staff people. We have 14 and a half attorneys, 7 support, and we'll be getting 1 summer law clerk. We have highly educated, very professional, very well qualified attorneys, and they are always improving their professional development education. We had over 2,372 assignments last year, so that's a lot of assignments per attorney. And also the Department of Risk Management reports to us. There are 5 people in that department. Under Act 139, our office is responsible for all civil law functions of the county. The County of Oakland is our client, not any particular department. All the departments are our client. And as lawyers, we're required to follow the Code of Professional Responsibility. So it's even in the court rules, our code is in here, and that is what governs how we operate. You may recall several years ago there were some attorneys in the city of Detroit who got in trouble with the state bar because they became confused and thought Kwame Kilpatrick was their attorney. That will not happen in our office. We understand who our client is. And also in this Code of Professional Responsibility, it explains how to handle conflicts of interest. And should we not be confused on how to go with those, the state bar has an individual who you can call to get advice when you think there's a conflict and you're not certain how to handle it. Our primary work is what our clients bring to us, and so we don't always know what we're going to be working on. We do some compliance work with our departments. We let them know changes of law and things that we recommend, but they don't always take our advice, or it may be a few years before they have the funding to carry out our advice. For instance, we've been working for many years on HIPAA issues. We're working on ADA issues. That electronic communications policy that you passed recently, that took several years of discussion with IT, with purchasing, and how to put that in place. So sometimes it takes a while to see the efforts of our recommendations. My former boss, Judy Cunningham, used to say our job was to nudge, nag, and nurture. And our clients do not always, we may make recommendations that they, it's just they respectfully disagree. Again, we provide legal advice. We don't mandate what departments do. Recently, I know you heard someone telling you that a longstanding county practice was the fault of our office. I just want you to understand that that was something we were not ever asked to make an opinion on, and we are not compliance officers that look into everything that a department is doing. I don't think that's what you intend us to do, but we do our best to keep abreast of all the legal issues going on and to provide advice accordingly. We generally have a very good relationship with county departments, and there's certain departments that we meet with on a regular basis, and I would like to start doing that here. I've been asking the chair for a few months to meet with me, and I know he has been very busy. So I hope that is going to start taking place. I have a good relationship with your chief of staff. He assured me that he sent Michael Andrews on an investigation of my high school career in yearbook, and I passed. So I can discuss my qualifications if you'd like, but I know you have my my resume, and Malcolm highlighted that. I've done just about everything in the office in my period of time. I actually started at the Board of Commissioners here. Was there for almost 2 years before I did go to Corporation Council, so I've been at the county for 21 years. I know people in every department. I've done work for every department. My emphasis has been in more complex contracts, especially information technology contracts, intellectual property, election matters, the infrastructure at the county, most all those contracts, your computers, your phone, your internet. I've done all those things. Are there any specific questions about my qualifications, or if you'd like me to go further, I'd be happy to, Madam Chair.
Any discussion? Commissioner Griffithson?
Thank you, Joellen. I just actually received your resume. So
Oh, okay. I didn't know that
I'm
you
not
didn't
quite
have it.
sure
Okay.
how, but anyway, a couple of questions. You know, there's, I understand, and this is not related to you, the history of Corporation Council. Since you're a county executive appointment, there's always been that undercurrent of, well, who do you represent? And I'm sure that will continue, that many of us do feel you are you're an executive branch appointee, so that is your, that's your bias in a way. So I just wanted to be clear that we are looking to pursue independent counsel when we feel that there may be a potential conflict, and I'd like to get your feelings about that.
Okay. Well, first of all, as I stated, we are the attorney for all the departments, so there are other elected officials that we are their attorney as well, and we've been able to provide them legal advice in terms of conflict, because it is governed in the Code of Professional Responsibility. I have it, it's a whole section of conflict of interest. There's a rule, and I don't know if you want me to go that in now, but I think maybe perhaps another point in time I would be happy to explain what that rule says. I will tell you that in the past there have been a few cases that our office, in discussion with the Board of Commissioners, sent out to outside counsel. The reapportionment case was not handled by our office, that was handled by John Pirich. Many years ago, there was a period of time when legislators were filing all of these recall petitions against each other, and I recall I was in Judy Cunningham's office when she called Dave Woodward and said, Dave, how do you feel? Would you like us to get outside counsel? She didn't think that we were conflicted, but there was an agreement that for the very first recall case, that was handled by outside counsel.
So just to clarify, I believe it is written, and I could be incorrect, that your office determines if there's a conflict and requires outside counsel. Whereas what I'm saying is that we will decide if there's a conflict and request outside counsel.
Well, I will tell you that Act 139 does say that we are your attorney. And the Code of Professional Responsibility dictates the discussion that, yes, that I would be having with your office should we feel that there's a conflict.
And certainly we would have that discussion with you too, if we feel there's a conflict. How, are you comfortable working with our outside counsel?
Well, I guess I would need to know the scenario, but certainly, we had a relationship with your prior, outside counsel. I think that what really needs to happen here is for our office and the Board of Commissioners to build a better relationship so that you understand and trust that the opinions that we are going to give you are based solely on the law, because that is how we operate. We will tell you what we think the law says. Now, if you choose to disagree with that,
and I want to be perfectly clear, we have tremendous respect for the work that Corporation Counsel does. There have been instances over the past years where the Board of Commissioners has been alerted to an ongoing legal battle that Corporation Counsel has been engaged in that we haven't known about, and that we have found out when sometimes after reading it in the newspaper. That's been very uncomfortable for us, and we do not want to see that practice continued. We want to be brought up to date before, well, I don't know the correct terminology about the appropriate time, but certainly we want to establish a much better relationship of communication about any issues that Corporation Counsel is pursuing that does affect the Board of Commissioners, who are the governing body.
And that's what I want also, Commissioner. I did see the last year and a half where there were some things that perhaps could have been handled better, where communication was not as early on as it could have been, and I would not like that to be the case going forward, so that I hope that we are meeting more regularly and getting to know each other, so that you know how I work and how my office works. And I understand, I've heard for years commissioners complain about reading things in the paper, and to the extent that our office is involved in something that reporters come to us, or that something is of a magnitude that you should be aware, then I would like to keep you informed.
Well, certainly, one of the last issues related to HUD directly impacted one of the commissioners on this body, and he was not informed timely. So that's a real concern that I have, and I am very anxious for our relationship to move forward in a constructive way. I've gotten tremendous counsel from your office and have a lot of respect for the work that you do. But I would like to see the relationship change a little bit, and for you to hear our concerns, and yes, for you to establish a relationship with whoever the liaison is, so that we can be sure and feel that we're in the loop.
As I said, I've heard that concern of commissioners for years, not only in the last year and a half, but over the many years that I've been working here. As far as the HUD matter, I'm not completely sure why it ended up that Corporation Counsel was sort of the front person for that issue. I was not involved in it, and I think it perhaps could have been handled more by the department themselves. But Malcolm and I have had a conversation concerning HUD. That will no longer be handled by our office. He will be handling that. He will also be the front person for the MIDC issue as well as the PTNE issue. So hopefully that will make it more communication between administration and Board of Commissioners, and our focus can be more on the actual legal issues. That's the role of our office.
And that's great. And then I guess I'm just asking you to consider when an issue comes up and it definitely impacts one of our districts or all of our districts, that we be brought into the conversation. Thank you.
One question I have, in the past, there's always been a lead person that interacted with the Board of Commissioners. Have you given any thought to how you're gonna structure that?
Well, I think, except for the Corporation Council, for many years, I've been the liaison with the Board of Commissioners, and I don't see that changing.
Even as the corporate?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there may be other attorneys, and you do have other attorneys that interact with you, but I really have not identified somebody who would take over what, the communication that I've been handling the last several years.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
And just for purposes, if I may, for a second of clarification, we don't know when we're going to have a deputy corporation counsel. If you approve Joe Ellen as corporation counsel, I did not want Joe Ellen to get overburdened. I have been involved in the HUD matter, not a lot, but from the beginning, selected outside counsel with Keith Lermino, and have been involved, and I agreed that I would take that project on. I will probably need some help, so somebody from corporation counsel will be probably appointed as a support person for me as I handle the HUD matter. I will continue to manage the MIDC project, and I will have the PTNE retiree project, and there are several other matters before the retirement board, which I will continue on since I am now a member of the retirement board. We just thought that would be a better allocation of resources during our interim period here.
Commissioner Gershenson?
So what is the process for the deputy, for appointment of the deputy?
Well, it does not require your confirmation. However, I don't know, because of the situation that we're currently in, whether administration will think that it's wise to try to seek a deputy, because that is appointed position. So we have to discuss whether we would even try to get some. There are probably a couple people in our office who might be good in that position, but I would not expect someone to come out of the merit system to take that position. So we really wanted to get through your hopeful appointment of me before we put some time into figuring out what would be the best way to handle that position.
So some of the options are in-house would apply. Is that something you do an RFP for? What's the process?
Well, generally, it's been posted, I guess I'll defer to HR. I mean, it could be posted. When Keith was hired, I believe it was posted to the outside. For me, I don't think there was a posting to the outside. What we would do right now, I don't know, because, as I said, this is just an unusual situation we're under, where I don't know, someone from the outside may not wish to take a job not knowing how long they would be holding that position.
Okay. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Gershenson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 8, and then we'll come back. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cobb, do you have your amendments? Is there a motion to bring the discussion back?
So are we going back to 5, or are we doing 8?
We're going to do 5.
5, please.
Okay, we're going back to 5.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I gotta get to the dentist, so forgive me.
You wanna go to dentist and not spend the time with us?
Well, this was
Yes.
scheduled long before this was,
Okay.
so, sorry.
We're gonna go back to,
Thank you.
5, so that Commissioner Zach can finish what she wants to say. I think we're joined by another person. Do you have a name?
I'm sorry, LaShawn Irby.
Okay, and you have, yeah, I'm gonna let her. And we will finish item number 5, so we can move forward with our agenda. Commissioner Zach.
So my understanding is, you wanted to do an amend or amend a word?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's,
Okay, you wanna move?
Well, I
Are you
have
gonna
to
do
pass it
our
out.
amendment?
Oh, we have to pass it out first. This is a one-word amendment. It's in the, be it further resolved, right, second one up from the bottom. And it would read, be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners insists the legislature monitors and adopts appropriate funding mechanism through the Department of Health and Human Services to cover the additional costs associated with increasing the age of the juvenile court jurisdiction from 17 to 18.
Are you moving your,
Yes, I am.
is there support? Is there support? Is
I
there-
support it.
It has been supported by Commissioner Lowe.
I also found out, if I may, that in the review or the bill analysis from the Senate Fiscal Agency, that the bill says that counties would have a choice to either have 68% of the cost provided to them for all juveniles, or 100% for juveniles who are 17 and over. Well, obviously the first one would be best. And I'm going to suggest that perhaps this analysis be included in our packet, because we wouldn't have so many questions if we had the analysis. That's up to you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gershenson?
So I don't have any problem with this amendment other than insist. I can't vote for insisting that the legislature do something. I was very comfortable with urges.
Okay.
So
I too agree. I have the word insist. I'm uncomfortable with that. Any further discussion on the amendment?
So our philosophy or policy would be looking to raise the age from 17 to 18. And this references who's covering the cost, that 2/3 of the cost. And that would be up to the departments to determine where the money comes from once we set policy that in Oakland County we'd like to move with this. Is that right?
oh, first of all, they have to pass the legislation.
Right.
And then my understanding is that once the legislation is passed with these funding options, then Oakland County would determine what they would want as the best opportunity for Oakland County. And there is fiscal analysis that's being done, but what's best, so.
Thank you. I do agree with this philosophy that 17 to 18 would be much better for
We're
our.
talking about the amendment.
Amendment first.
Okay. Commissioner Tom?
Oh, okay, no, I pass. I want to talk about something else as well.
Can we call the roll on the amendment?
Okay, Loops,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes?
Nelson,
Yes.
Gershenson,
no.
Quarles.
No.
That is. I'm sorry, Nelson said
Yes.
yes, okay. We have 3 yeas and 2 nays. Motion carried.
Great.
Motion carries. Okay, back to the amendment.
I
We were
have-
joined by.
Well, you know what?
If.
If,
Excuse me. We were joined, you want to add to the discussion? This is on the,
This is on the resolution.
Yes.
Good morning.
My name is LaShawn Irby, and I'm honored to join you this morning to talk about Raise the Age. I drove in from Lansing, and I'm representing the Michigan Council on Crime and Delinquency. So we urge that we encourage you to pass this resolution to support Raise the Age, because we know that prosecuting youth as adults is harmful to kids, it's harmful to families, and it's harmful to communities. It's harmful to kids because we know that youth incarceration is expensive and ineffective. Youth who are sentenced to jail or prison are more likely to be physically attacked, sexually assaulted, and to attempt suicide than any other group. They also won't receive the rehabilitation services that they would if they go into the adult system. It's harmful to families because parents should have the right to know when their teenager is arrested. Although most 17-year-olds are juniors or seniors in high school who live at home, parents are often not notified if their child is arrested, nor included in the court hearing or the follow-up. Sorry, my phone just died. The juvenile system, on the other hand, recognizes the important roles of families and seeks to engage families in the treatment process. It's harmful to communities because raising the age will ensure safer communities and fewer victims. So rather than perpetuating violence and jeopardizing public safety, we need a system that repairs the harm done to victims and to communities. A restorative approach, if you will, that, like provided in the juvenile justice system, seeks to heal broken relationships, strengthen community bonds, and provide opportunities for youth to make amends for their actions. So we know that Michigan is one of 4 states who still automatically charges 17-year-olds as adults, and we know this is harmful. We ask that you support this resolution so that we can move forward. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Discussion, Commissioner Tom.
Thank you very much for coming from Lansing. I know that's a terrible drive, and in the morning the traffic is horrendous, to say the least, but thank you for coming. I do appreciate it. I have just one question. It's the same question I've asked, but sadly we don't have anyone here from Children's Village. As you know, kids can drop out of school at 16, okay?
Yes.
So now we have a juvenile who's 17 who hasn't been in school for a year, give or take, right? Oftentimes they drop out before, as we well know, and don't even bother to report when they're 14 or 15. But let's just give it the year deal, okay? So they come to Children's Village. Have you ever been there?
I've not.
Okay, well, you need to go. It's wonderful.
Okay.
And we actually pay for the school district, the Waterford School District, to provide a full school curriculum, okay? So we have professional teachers in Children's Village teaching children K or pre-K, I don't remember which, all the way through age 16. I don't know what we do with age 17, but my concern is that if we're going to really rehabilitate these kids, which sometimes with some nonviolent issues that really can be done, okay?
Yes.
And I think it's still up to the discretion, if I'm not correct, of the judge to decide whether that 17-year-old goes to our place or over to the big jail. Am I correct?
I think, yes, ma'am, that
Okay.
sounds correct.
Okay, because it was a very violent thing. Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we do with that child who hasn't been in school? Is there anything in the law that says if they go into a facility, whether it's lockdown or whatever, that they should be provided education, period?
I'm not able to answer that question for you, but it totally makes sense to me. I can find out for you though. and
That
get
would
some
be very
information back.
helpful, because I'm
Sure.
very, if you leave a kid in a cell, or maybe they have 2 in a cell, I don't know what they do, for 24/7 or an hour out to play basketball or something, they're not going to get what they need to have. And part of the restorative life that we hope to provide for them would, in my personal opinion, would at least be bringing them up to speed in reading and math and just the basics, if nothing else, but certainly school. So it's very important to me to know that they will be provided for, and also I'm not so certain whether we pay for 17-year-olds for how the whatever we do for the way how we subsidize schools. I'm not certain we do that once they're incarcerated. I don't know how it works, but I think it's important for us to note that you're not going to get any value out of moving them from the big jail down to our place if they're not getting an education, period.
I agree with that.
So, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Richardson? Commissioner Louis?
I think to Commissioner Zach's point earlier is that the judge would have the option to determine if the 17-year-old would be better served in our juvenile or exhibits more adult-like behavior and indeed refuses to be part of a school day, then they would have the option to sentence to the regular jail. But I think our judges would be well informed enough to make that decision. And then I do agree with everything that LaShawn has said about 17 to 18-year-olds. And I think that's a detail that we could work out as long as we set the philosophy that, yes, we want to move that age from 17 to 18.
I would just like to add, as part of the funding discussion, there's also a new bill in the legislative package this session, in addition to a bill that would iron out the state-county split. There's also a new bill that would create a Raise the Age fund in the Department of Treasury to have the state trying to generate money to help with this transition. And then also, there's a 2-year delayed implementation of the law change. So once it passes, there will still be 2 years to transition and kind of work out the kinks of that challenge and get input from local governments, judges, and prosecutors to make sure that's done well over that process, and it's not going to be an immediate change without kind of ironing out some of those concerns.
Commissioner Tom?
You mentioned a treasury fund. Is that part of the budget? Who put it in?
It's part of the bill package. It's Senate Bill 102 and 4146 in the House. Would create a Raise the Age fund in the Department of Treasury to help cover the cost of implementing Raise the Age.
Where would the funding come from?
I'm not clear on that. I was going to clarify when I first began testifying, I am our communications director, so I'm not as much of a policy expert as our CEO or Kids Count director who weren't able to be here, but we can look into that further. But I just know that in general, the state is very aware of the local government concerns around funding and trying to reach a compromise in that regard.
Well, yeah, my concern, again, is that we take care of, and I don't disagree that judges won't have the opportunity to sentence people in such a way that they could say, you have to go to school. But will the law, there's a lot of complications there. And the other thing is, what about funding for buildings? Will people have funding to expand their buildings?
In addition to the funding per individual?
Yes.
I'm not clear on that. These are some things we can look into.
I'm sorry.
That would be part of an implementation cost. Right now, that 68% won't cover, I don't believe, construction.
I'm sorry. So you're telling me that, do we have room at Children's Village now for 17-year-olds?
I can't answer that question, but they would have to do something probably with separation to keep the ages separated accordingly.
Yeah, I know that, but you don't, see, it's too bad we didn't have someone from Children's Village here who could have answered
There are
those.
17-year-olds currently in Children's Village. Children's Village takes up to age 24. So this is already, there are provisions.
Children's Village takes up to age 24?
That's what I thought.
Oh, no, they
Well,
take.
we're getting into an area that all of us
All right.
probably sitting here. at the
So may I
table.
suggest that,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
We're probably not very clear on, so until we get someone from Children's Village here to actually explain the process that we use. Mr. Chair, did you want to?
If I may, Madam Chair. Thank you for engaging in this. And I do happen to know, because I have talked to Kathy Forsley at Children's Village around this issue. And there is, it's hard to know exactly. I mean, they've tried to do some cost estimate. If this was going to affect, there's a large number of 17-year-olds that would be pulled out of the adult system, as they should be. I mean, from a policy point of view, they do not need to be, nor should they be. in general in the adult system, and that's really the impetus of this, to be part of the conversation, to advocate for these changes. I think it's useful to have an ongoing conversation. At this juncture, I think that this resolution seeks to register Oakland County's position, as well as direct our lobbyists to help join in the effort to help advocate for this and get this policy adopted. And so I think bringing the Health Division in to talk further about this and the needs and all these other types of things. But there is some uncertainty and question marks that obviously would also tweak and change as it goes through the entire legislative process. To that end, the last amendment that was adopted, and in general that I'm supportive of the intent of it. However, the word insist versus urge, which is, I guess this is, how do we know we're a policy-making body? Because we're going to debate the merits of words. Insist is very much a demand word, where urge is a very strongly persuasive word. And my only concern about it is that what I do not want to get lost in all of this is the policy issue behind all of this. I think the policy issue is that children should not be thrown in legal systems of adults. And I don't want it to be insinuated like, well, unless you answered my demand, we're not supportive of this policy change. So I would urge the committee, if we'd be open to going back to urge, all the merits of everything in there, be strong advocates for the funding elements of things, and this is one of these issues that should this become mandated, is an unfunded mandate, but doing the right thing. Yes, there are costs. We need to know what those costs are, and we need to be partners in affording these costs. Throwing kids in keeping minors in the adult prison system or the adult correction system or judicial system is not. I don't want that to get lost in transaction. So in translation. So I hope the committee might be willing to go back to putting urge instead of insist in that, because this really is a policy question. But I am deeply 100% committed to working with everyone on this board to bring as many resources as necessary to help afford this, whether it's capital outlay for facilities to be able to accommodate this, which I expect there to be some. We just don't know exactly how much, and that's the conversation that I've had with Kathy Forsley, as well as the ongoing cost to that would be necessary to house individuals in Children's Village should that situation emerge. So I'm just throwing that out there and hoping for consideration on that fact.
Okay, Tom, followed by Nelson.
One of the things that I have fought against for years and years and years and years are unfunded mandates. And quite frankly, I cannot support this if we don't know where the funding is coming from. The state has wonderful ideas. I sat up there and so did some other people. And they can pass all kinds of stuff and pass it down to us and say you pay for it. I don't know where the funding comes from. If I may ask Kathy Forsley, Kathy, do we have people up to age 24 at Children's Village?
24?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, it was 16, the age that we cut off there?
17.
17, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. In addition to that, I cannot support this unless I have a fiscal note that's attached that will tell us what the possible cost will be. If it's gonna be a whitewash, that's fine, okay? If we have to build a structure, okay, if we have to build a building, and we have some things in capital improvement that we need to do, then we're gonna have to move some monies around. I want to know that before I support this. I think it's a great idea. I have no problem with the idea. But I also am concerned about two things. One, the funding, and two, the schooling. And I don't know the answers to those. So I will be voting no on this until, not that I don't approve of what you're saying, but I have no clue as to whether or not we're going to have to build a building, another jail cell, some more jail cells. I don't know. And I don't have that from Children's Village. I might say yes anyhow. I might say, okay, it's gonna cost the county $2 million to add on to whatever it is we have. I like the idea, but I don't know where the funding's coming from. And as a former legislator, I just cringe at the state knowing what's best for Oakland County, okay, telling us what to do, and then not funding the, making it an unfunded mandate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, is it all right to speak?
Okay, then Nelson and Gurshison.
So also as a former legislator, that this is about justice and fair justice, and we have a responsibility to provide fair justice. And I would not think of this issue as something the state is thrusting on Michigan. This is genuinely not a grassroots issue. Public policy leaders reaching out to the state to say, please improve justice for our youngest, some of our youngest residents that unfortunately under current law gets trapped in a system that is unfair and has severe consequence for society. To the issue of unfunded mandates, and I think we need and we should continue to have the conversation, but justice isn't free. And I wish we could live in a world in which I knew all the exact costs. The policy question is, should a 17-year-old be treated as an adult under virtually all crimes that they're charged under, without the discretion and the ability to administer fair justice? And that's really what this resolution's about. Given Commissioner Taub's, if she can't vote for this right now, I would ask a motion to be brought forth to reconsider the amendment that was adopted, to reconsider it, and move the resolution as it was originally. If Commissioner Taub is open to supporting it with a modified version, we move that forward. But I think that's what we to move forward, because I mean, justice can't wait for these kids. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson, Gurshison, and then
Considering Chairman Woodward's words in regards to the language of urge versus insists, I'd like to move the amendment to strike insists and replace it with urge.
Is there support? Okay, supported by Commissioner Gurshison. Now, speaking to the amendment, Commissioner Gurshison, do you have anything to say to?
I was just gonna say that anyone that voted on the affirmative, no. Yeah, okay, I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner.
To me, it's semantics, whether it's urges or insists. I think the bigger picture is what's right for our kids 17 to 18. So urges or insists doesn't matter to me. I'm still in favor of it.
Okay. Commissioner Todd for the last.
Well, you don't need an amendment. All you have to do is move to reconsider.
This works.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Would you call the roll, please?
Taub,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes.
We have 4 yeas and 1 nay.
Okay, motion carried and the amendment has passed. We're back to the word urge. Commissioner Gurshison.
Back to the original? Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to apologize to the committee about my statement of 24-year-olds at Children's Village. I was confused with the age foster care kids are within the system, so.
26. I think 26.
Okay, any further? Commissioner Todd.
Yes, I'm going to ask to have a fiscal note prepared for the board meeting, please, of what it would cost to house these children without any support from the state in Children's Village, so that we know what the cost is. And so I'm going to be voting no on this issue today, and I look forward to having a fiscal note as to what we will be doing. And I think the best way to do it would be to go to the jail. I'm sure Sheriff Bouchard will tell you how many children he has in their age 17, okay? And we can go from there. We may well have the facility to house them. That would be wonderful. The other thing I'd like to know is the school issue.
Okay.
Kathy Forsley may have an answer for that. She just raised her hand, so thank you, Madam Chair.
So as long as they're under the care of Children's Village, they go to school?
Okay, whether they dropped out or not, they have no choice. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of any situation where we've allowed
No, I mean, they're 17 yeah, but they're 17-year-olds, so they may well not have been in school.
The way it would be approached.
Excuse me, Kathy, would you come to the table, please?
Thank you.
So we do have kids that come that are in trouble with school credits and, they may well have been, they've been suspended, they're out of the school system, but when they're there, they're working on school credits. Whether it's working for a GED or they're actually in classes, they're going to school.
Okay, so if we get another age group in there, they too would have to go to school or get work some way or other. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kay.
Unless they've completed school.
Then what would you do with them?
That's a good question.
Okay, so could you come prepared at the board meeting and tell me if they've graduated from school and they're 17? I graduated from high school at 17. Yeah. What other programs would be planned for them and the cost of them. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? We call the roll on the resolution as amended.
As presented, really, because back to where it originated. Nelson,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Todd,
No.
Quarles.
Yes. Well, no,
3 yeas, 1 nay.
it's not exactly, because she changed some of it. This is something we changed. Okay. So, resolution as amended has passed. Moving to item 8, professional services. Chief of Staff Ward will bring a definition of it. Can I get a motion to bring forth? Gershenson, is there support? Support by Luke.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. This, very briefly, is the professional services contract proposed for outside legal counsel services. At the beginning of this year's session, the board decided to put out an RFP for outside legal services. We had, since 1998, had the same outside legal services contract of the same firm. So it's the first time we put it out to bid in over 20 years. So we had an RFP evaluation committee of myself, Chairman Woodward, Vice Chair Gershenson, and Commissioner Spiz, and with our purchasing policies and procedures, put it out to bid, had an evaluation process, and our unanimous conclusion was the Allen Law Group. I put this out to you by email on Friday. I don't know if all of you had a chance to take a look at it. This was the Allen Law Group's bid, and we're asking for your support of the selection of the Allen Law Group and permission for Chairman Woodward at the conclusion of Purchasing and Corporation Counsel's review to sign the contract. And I know Commissioner Gershenson could also speak, and I don't know if the Chairman's still here. They could also speak to the Allen Law Group's presentation. They were definitely excellent and will do a wonderful job for the Board of Commissioners.
Commissioner Gershenson, did you just want to say anything?
No, I concur with our chair.
Yeah, I don't see a resume about, of the law. Is it here? Am I missing something?
It was sent out Friday.
Oh,
Yeah, I have it
maybe.
here if you'd like to take a look at them.
Okay, thank you. So this is a group that generally, I presume, deals with governmental affairs?
They do quite a bit of work. They do county work. They were familiar with Optional Unified County Government Act, which is a little unusual. There's only 2 of us in the state, so they do county authorities, county government work, some municipal work. Again, we were very impressed with them, and the Chairman could speak to them as well.
May I continue? Are we paying them $20,000?
No.
Or is it's on a per
It's a not to
request
it's a not
basis?
to exceed amount. It's on per request on a case-by-case basis. Of course, we only use outside counsel on a necessary basis.
Okay, so that would be if there was a conflict between the board and corporation counsel, is that correct?
Well, we have a policy on when we can request a second opinion that can be executed by the minority caucus leadership or of myself to ask legal clarification, other legal assistance to help support us.
Okay, so it would have to come through either the minority caucus chair or yourself, okay?
That's in your board rules.
Okay. Is there anybody here from there that we could talk to, or we don't?
We did not invite them.
We went,
But
Yes.
that's, if I'm understanding correct, that's why you had the screening committee, so that you could
we had-
review the packets that you, because there were more than just this one group.
Right.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
had
know the
5
number.
submittals.
5 submittals, we
And,
interviewed
then
3.
make a recommendation to the committee, so we're voting on their recommendation.
And it was there was a consensus that this was the best qualified to be able to do this work for us.
So they're on I guess piecemeal, not piecemeal, but you call them in, they don't attend our meetings and they don't expect to. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Unless, I guess we determine that it's essential for them to be there, but I cannot see that being the case. It would be at our direction, not their direction.
Okay.
We decide when we want to use them.
okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Because they're not on retainer, they're on project.
They're on hourly.
Oh, yeah, what is their hourly rate, out of curiosity?
It's a $225 blended rate, so it just depends on, we can use anyone from their firm.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're ready.
Yes.
I'm just curious, do they charge travel time too? They're from Detroit,
They all live in Oakland County.
but their offices are in Detroit. So would they charge travel time as well, or just time on the job? Just asking.
Travel
Well, I
time.
don't know.
No charge.
Perfect, good job.
And a phone call.
Yeah, they're charged, they charge.
Phone
an
calls
hourly
are how I
rate.
like to deal with lawyers.
I think
Except to
Commissioner,
them.
I think Commissioner Spiz asked if we got the first 15 minutes free, and I think they answered yes, I recall. He did ask all of them that question.
Right.
He
Any
tried
further
for,
discussion?
he tried for everything.
I just have one other quick question. Okay, so they mostly work, except for Oakland Schools, in the city of Detroit for the county of Wayne and Public Lighting Authority. Oh, they work for Southfield Public Schools, good, okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
think Oakland Oakland Schools as well.
I'm sorry?
Oakland Schools as well.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Nope. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Gershenson,
Yes.
Luce,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes. Motion carried. Seeing no further, I think we can just file that. Seeing no further business, the meeting adjourned to